My first 24 hours after 17 years in prison consisted of me getting into a potential conflict with my stepfather, anxiety at the DMV because I got my license back day one, me taking my first drink, which was not good because there were some obvious signs of some mental health issues right off the bat. And I survived. I made it. I was grateful. I was glad. I woke up the next morning refreshed, ready to roll. Why? Because I knew I was leaving Virginia, and I love Virginia, but this is the place where I served 16 years, 11 months of my time. And it was time for me to go. Me and my wife had made a plan prior to me coming home where she was focused on getting us a home, but as she so candidly stated, I'll get it. Once I got it, you got to make sure we keep it. And I respected that. And that's just the way me and my wife communicate. And man, that's how it worked. We were headed to Georgia just after seeing family again that second day, eating some more of mama's home cooked meals, getting some last minute hugs, and reminding my stepfather that if he didn't get right, that I'd be back. And I meant that. I just had to be strategic because I hadn't even had the opportunity to check in with my probation officer before all this had occurred. I would be on probation in Georgia, and I had a week to check in, but I had every intention of checking in immediately once I got to Georgia. Maybe I was a little bit more proactive than they were used to, by the way, because I think I had called like 2 or 3 times just reminding them that, hey, I got out, I'm on my way, I'll be there, is that okay? Anxiety. One of the things, though, that I remember that traumatized me the most, and I can feel the feeling of anxiety, fear, and everything else that was attached to that moment, is the night that we drove back to Georgia. You see, that very night, the first night that we were traveling back, we would be in a $500 Plymouth Grand Voyager Sea Green, smelt like fish, but I'm grateful for that vehicle to this day because it's that vehicle that got me around Georgia. But nonetheless, that Georgia being our destination, that van was in Virginia, purchased there by my stepfather, which was one good thing that he did do. And we had to get it to Georgia without it having the proper tags, etc., at least the obvious ones. We had went to the DMV and we had got a piece of paper that legally allowed us to drive it from Virginia to Georgia without plates, registration, etc. But it was literally a piece of paper that they said, just tape it in the back window. Now, I automatically knew that this was a formula for something bad to occur because while we were driving, all that anybody could see outside the absence of a license plate was a piece of paper taped to the back window that, well, if a police seen us, we'll just hope that they can squint and read the words that says we're legally allowed to drive like this. Well, wouldn't you know it, we made it out of Virginia okay, full of anxiety the whole drive down there. And we got into North Carolina, and sure enough, as we were approaching a gas station, the police flicked the lights and made it aware that he had seen us. Now, I can tell you in that moment, because I was full of anxiety and everything else, instead of me properly communicating to my wife that I'm scared, I can't believe this is happening, it came out more of a command. Man, I knew it. I knew this was going to happen. This is crazy. Remember, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it that can cause more of a negative impact to the people that we love, especially those that are trying to support us when we come home. Obviously, she was probably nervous and scared too, not as much as I was, because everything to me was super sensitive, especially dealing with the law. But here I was. I hadn't been out for 48 hours, and we're pulled over, and there's flashing blue and red lights behind me. And if anybody's been in that situation, I hope you haven't. I can tell you, though we were good to go, there's nothing in the vehicle and we were legal. Man, it was so much anxiety. I had automatically assumed they were going to check my ID and want to just take me back for some reason I don't even know that I had conjured up in my mind. Hello again, anxiety. I'll keep seeing that word and saying it throughout the course of me telling the story. PTSD is crazy, and the things that trigger it and the domino effect behind it, man, it's everlasting. Because the police officer did allow us to keep going. He took the time to read the paper. My wife talked to him. He never even checked my ID. And we were allowed to still travel. I should have been relieved. I remember my wife looking over at me and kind of trying to laugh it off, making some type of positive, something of the moment. And me just looking back at her like, yo, that's not cool. Yo, that's crazy. It was almost as if I was putting the blame on her, but she was doing nothing more than trying to make sure we got back to Georgia with this vehicle. You see, what was going on with me was there was a lot of stuff internally brewing. And as I was faced with these certain triggering moments, during a moment that was already full of stress, transitioning back into society after 17 years, well, certain symptoms started to arise. I had not found a consistent hour or two to be full of joy or appreciation for my freedom yet. And yes, I had faced a lot within a short amount of time of me re-entering back into society. But to anybody watching this, man, find gratitude and find it fast. There's going to be things that pop up, hurdles, obstacles, etc. But the key to it all is finding things to appreciate along the way. The whole rest of the way down to Georgia, man, it was some arguments and stress-filled conversation because now other anxieties got triggered. And I don't know. I had just came up with all these different negative thoughts and outcomes and possibilities of what could occur. And I remember even at one time she had asked me, "Do you want to drive?" And that sent me off even more. No, I'm not ready to drive. Are you crazy? We just got pulled over in North Carolina. You want me to drive? But we're legal. It's okay. No. What's wrong with you? All my responses I'm ashamed of. I should have responded differently in the moment, been more patient, just, again, communicated to her. Like, that was overwhelming. I'm good, babe. We can pull over and just rest, which we did. And eventually, we made it to Georgia, and it was early morning hours, and I was grateful. This would be the first time that I would be walking into a place that my wife had worked hard for us to get, a place that we would call home. And I walked up to the door after she gave me the keys, and she said, "Open the door, unlock it, your turn." And I walked up, put the key in the door, I unlocked it, and I hit the light switch. And that's when it happened.